very good morning to everyone. I, student of DME Media School, welcome you all to the Vibrant India series, episode 71. I also welcome all our viewers who are watching us live on Facebook. Vibrant India series is an initiative of DME Media School for celebrating 75 years of India's independence. As part of the series, we invite inspiring personalities for online talk, interview, and interaction with our students. The invited personalities for this series are from all walks of life and from all parts of the country. And today, our special guest is Himanshu Thakkar, founder, coordinator of South Asia Network on Dams, Rivers, and People, Sandar. We welcome you, sir. I would like to take a moment and introduce Delhi Metropolitan Education to our viewers. DME is an A-grade premier educational institute affiliated to Guru Gobind Singh Indraprasth University, New Delhi, and approved by the Bar Council of India. The institute offers BBA, BLLB, BBLLB, and BAGMC programs. DMA believes in impairing world-class education to its students while training them to develop and enhance their skills. This education and training enables them in taking up challenges of the industry and creating a space for themselves with their competence and vigor. DME Media School is one of the most promising media institutes in the country. It offers BA in journalism and mass communication. It is recognized as a school focused on the growth of its faculty and students through academic and co-curricular activities. Major flagship events and initiative of school include BG Varghese Lecture Series, Peer-to-Peer FDP, International Film Festival SIFI, International Conference ICANN, and Britika Convention of Media Students. Newly added to the list is VIS, Vibrant India Series, and CCD, Check-in for the Cognition with Dean. It is our privilege to introduce to you the personality of episode 71 of the VIS. The guest of the day is a personality radiating hope, willpower, and empathy. Himanshu Thakkar graduated from IIT, has been associated with the water sector in India for over 3 decades. He has been associated with World Commission of Dams, Narmada Bachao Andolan, and Center for Science and Environment. He is the founder, coordinator of South Asia Network on Dams, River, and People, Sandar. Sandar is an informal network working on issues related to river communities and large-scale water infrastructure. Himanshu Thakkar looks into the environmental and social impacts and issues related to governance of rivers and dams. Sandar's work is mainly focused on India, but also includes issues from South Asia. Sandar's activity includes monitoring, researching, documentation, networking, and awareness raising on these issues. Himanshu Thakkar emphasizes on the need for democratization of government in water sector in India. He was a speaker at Bajaj Allianz TED Talk in Pune in 2015 on topic threats that river faces. In September 2011, Himanshu Thakkar visited USA to see and know about US water resource development. At India Rivers Week meeting in 2014, he shared the dais with the Union Water Resource Minister Uma Bharti. In 2016, he was involved with Rajasthan Village Community in Johar Rejuvenation with Patrick Mackley of International River Network. I now request the technical team to show some glimpses of his life. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us today. It is indeed an honor to host you. I now request Dr. Susmita Wala, Head DME Media School, to welcome the guest.
Welcome everybody to episode 71 of Vibrant India series. We launched this digital program in 2021 on August 9 on the anniversary of Quit India movement. Presented episode 50 of this program in 2022 on August 15, when India celebrated 76th Independence Day. Vibrant India series is an initiative of DME Media School, Delhi Metropolitan Education. It is an online series to get inspiration from distinguished personalities. This program has been conceptualized and created by Professor Ambrish Saxena. Vibrant India series is a tribute to all those people who have made supreme sacrifices for the independence of our motherland. This program is a part of Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, a celebration on India completing 75 years of independence. Let us have a look at the eminent personalities who have graced the VIS during the last more than a year. 8 personalities from the Defense Forces have participated in VIS till date. These personalities belong to the Indian Army, Air Force, and BSF. These include Lieutenant General Sanjay Kulkarni, Lieutenant General Vinod Bhatia, Dr. P.K. Saxena, Professor R.K. Dargan, Captain Dharmveer Singh, Group Captain Ashok Kechodia, and Mr. Virendra Kumar Gaur from BSF. This list includes a woman as well, Squadron Leader Prerna Chaturvedi. 9 personalities from the education sector comprising education planning, teaching and research have participated in VIS. 8 personalities from the journalism, broadcasting and entertainment sectors have joined the VIS. 2 senior journalists, Mr. Rajesh Badal, Mr. Shambhuna Shukla, have graced the program, while Mr. Sanjay Banerjee belongs to the broadcasting industry as commentator. Dr. Ashish Kulkarni, Mr. Sunit Tandon, Dr. Rajesh Bhatt, Ms. Sujata Madhu, Ms. Pankaj Saxena also participated in VIS. From the social sector, 9 personalities, including 8 women, have participated in VIS. Dr. Monisha Behel, Dr. Mridula Tandon, Dr. Mridula Seth, Ms. Tripti S. Shingal, Ms. Vibha Lakhera, Ms. Bhavrin Kandhari, Dr. Meenu Walia, Ms. Meenakshi Gupta, and co-founder Padma Shri Jiten Singh Shanti, Bhagat Singh Seva Dal. As a Corona warrior, also graced the VIS. 9 personalities belong to art, theatre, and literature, participated in VIS. 2 personalities from the field of law and human rights have graced the VIS. 4 police officers have also participated in VIS. 5 IAS officers have also graced the VIS. 25 women have participated in 70 episode of VIS. I have already mentioned all 8 women's. Rest, Ms. Indrani Singh, Pallavi Fauzdar, Sachi Soni, Ms. Saloni Sacheti, Ms. Vandana Mahajan, Amrita Chaudhary, Meenakshi Pahuja, Dr. Vani Yadav, Dr. Parul Purohit was, Ms. Parvati Menon participated in VIS. From the other fields, Mr. S.P. Rawal, Ms. Augustine Vallet, Sufi Sayyid Azmal Nizami, Mr. Balindu Sharma Dadichi, Mr. Satish Saxena, Mr. Ganesh Falke also participated in VIS. So, today in episode 71, we have with us an inspiring personality, Mr. Himanshu Thakkar, who has done outstanding work on water bodies in India. Welcome Himanshuji in episode 71 of Vibrant India series. Welcome you all in this episode. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for listing out the galaxy of experts we have hosted till now in VIS. I now request Dr. Ambrish Saxena, Dean DME Media School and originator and ideator of VIS to take the program forward.
We welcome you in this episode 71 of Vibrant India series, and it has already been told to everybody that this is a series that we started 2 years back, almost 2 years back, to get some inspiration to our students. Since all these students who are there in this session, they are studying journalism and mass communication. So we feel it's our responsibility to bring to them different kind of thoughts in various walks of life, and then to get them acquainted with the people who are doing some outstanding work in their respective fields. Now, as far as this whole format of the program is concerned, after this introductory session, we request the guest to tell us the life journey, his or her life journey. So I will request you to tell us as to how you proceeded at different stages in life, and how did you keep this goal that you will be working for rivers and them, and you will be part of this whole movement which has been there in India for the last 75 years. And also, I will request you to tell us, to share with us some of your experiences, some anecdotes, which you feel that there is some point of inspiration that can be taken by the students and teachers in this session. And thereafter, I will be putting up certain questions to you, wherein I will request you to elaborate on certain point that you would have already spoken. And then the floor will be open to students and the teachers, and they will be free to ask questions to you, and you are requested to please respond to those questions. So without further delay, I request you, Himanshu Thakkarji, to please take over from here and narrate to us your life journey.
Thank you very much, Professor Saxena, and all the guests and all the students and teachers of the DME Media School. It's actually a privilege to be part of this Vibrant India series, of part of your 75 years, 75 personalities. As I told Professor Saxena in the beginning, when you contacted me, that I'm not sure I'm the right person, but I'm happy to participate. I'm not very ready to speak about my life journey, but I'll just briefly say, I graduated from IIT Bombay, and by the time I graduated, one of the great things about IIT is not only the academic excellence, but also the vision, the broad vision of the world that it exposes students to. And that actually has a potential of creating a lot of different kind of personalities and thinking. So by the time I was completed my engineering from IIT Bombay, I was more or less sure that I don't want to do engineering. I was more interested in doing something related to social issues. But I still worked as an engineer for about 3.5 years. By that time, I thought this is enough I had. And then I joined, Baba Amte was a remarkable social figure at that time. And I had seen his work earlier. So I joined him, and we worked in a tribal area in Jhabua for a couple of years. Then I joined Narmada Bachao Andolan. In 1995, when I got married, I needed to started earning money, not just being activist. You don't earn any money. So for family, and then, so we started work. I first worked with Center for Science and Environment, and then with World Commission on Dams. And then in 97, 98, we started this South Asian network on dams, rivers, and people. The objective was to continue to work on water sector. Water sector as if environment, democracy, and people matter. That was our motto, that, work on water sector as if environment, people, and democracy matter. With that objective, we have been working, trying to see how we can open the spaces in water sector to create a more democratic water sector in India. And that journey has continued after that. That's the brief life sketch I'll give. About the issues that we work on, I would like to begin by saying that India is actually, we are talking about 75 years of India's independence. And let us start on a positive note. India has been really blessed with so many blessings in water sector. The monsoon that is about to start this year is the possibly the biggest blessing India has. It every year it comes more or less at the right time, brings bounty of water to the country. Second major blessing I see is the our geography, with Himalayas in the north, Western Ghats in the west, and Eastern Ghats in the east, and Himalayas from Kashmir to Arunachal Pradesh. So this creates a very remarkable situation where we have so many Himalayan rivers which flow perennially. And also in the peninsular India, we have very large number of perennial rivers, even though there are no Himalayas or any high mountains, but there are Western Ghats and Eastern Ghats which help create that. We had another major blessing I see in water sector in India is the groundwater. Groundwater is our mainstay in water use in India. The maximum amount of water that India uses today comes from groundwater. Uh, uh, and uh, and this has been, so groundwater has been our water lifeline for at least 4 decades now, more than 4 decades. Uh, it is giving most of the water we use, whether it is in water supply, domestic, urban and rural, whether it is industrial water supply, or whether it is even agriculture water supply. 2/3 of the area that gets irrigated in India today gets irrigation from groundwater. So groundwater is a blessing because it's a decentralized source. It's a blessing because that decentralized source get recharged through natural phenomenon. It's the biggest storage space we have available. Nature has provided the storage space where we can store the water and reuse it. Incidentally, India is the biggest groundwater user in the world. India uses more groundwater than number 2 and 3 countries put together. Number 2 country China and number 3 country US. Even the amount of groundwater they use, if you add them, India is using more than that. So that's another major blessing India has. And then we had a traditional wisdom the society had. Traditional water harvesting systems, variety of them. If you go from Kashmir to Kanyakumari or from Gujarat to Assam, you will find different kinds of water harvesting systems, which are traditionally available to India. And besides, so these are technologies of water harvesting. And in addition, there are the management systems. So it is not just the technology, but there are management systems, social management system in place to ensure that these technologies, these systems continue to deliver the benefits that India is so much needed in water sector. So these are the major blessings I count as India's water sector. However, we are in crisis today. In water crisis, a major water crisis today, everyone accepts that, right from Prime Minister down to World Bank and a lot of institutes and people. The reason we are in this crisis, because the way I put it in very simple terms, is that we have not learned to care the blessings we have. We have sort of almost frittered away large number of them, or we are in the process of frittering away a lot of those blessings. So, for example, and this mismanagement extends not only in the water sector, but goes towards the environment management sector. So it's a like a man-made crisis. We have been choosing wrong. You know, when you ask people what are the reasons for this crisis and what is the way forward, people will tell you different diagnosis and prognosis. Some people will say it's the wrong kind of technology we have been choosing. Some people will say we have polluted our sources. We have overexploited groundwater. We are not harvesting rain, which was the lesson that our traditional society gave us. We are not managing our water resources properly. We are overexploiting groundwater and we are not recharging it. We are actually we have in the process of development destroyed a lot of groundwater recharging systems. And because of that, the levels of groundwater are depleting everywhere almost. And the pollution of the groundwater is increasing besides the surface water. You know, you take the biggest river of India, Ganga, And no less than 3 prime ministers have said that, yes, Ganga is in crisis, starting from 1980s to current prime minister. And they have all been trying to fix that issue, but we haven't succeeded too far away. I mean, we have done a little bit, but we haven't really gone too far. So there are different, and why is we are not able to tackle pollution? There are various reasons. So, and this issue, the problems, all of these problem points, the problems are actually increasing. Uh, and the biggest crisis of the mankind today, the climate change, is actually making each of these problem points worse if we are not careful. Now both in terms of we have to be careful, both in terms of mitigating the environment crisis, I mean the climate change crisis, and also adapting to the climate change crisis. And both of that we need resources, natural resources to do that. So there are different kind of prognosis, diagnosis are available. But to put it simply, I would say the biggest crisis is the governance crisis. The rest of them are more of symptoms, actually. The governance crisis we are facing today in water sector, uh, uh, and that crisis is largely because of, to put it simply, by not having sufficient democracy in water sector. And how do you describe democracy in water sector? So one can broadly say that you need transparency, and water sector has to be transparent. Can be no argument against it. There has to be accountability. US Embassy in India frequently invites me to discussions, and in many discussions I have seen there are people. There was one gentleman who said that he was in charge of a sewage treatment plant in the US, and he said that whether it is summer or winter, whether it is raining or snowing, he has to go and visit and ensure the functioning of his STP every single day of the year. And if the STP is the sewage treatment plant does not function as required, as per the design, then he is the person who is made accountable. Now, this accountability is so important to ensuring adequate governance of water sector. In India, Delhi is known for Yamuna crisis and pollution crisis. Yamuna is known as the worst polluted river in Delhi, not upstream of Delhi. And even in the national capital, we are not able to address that issue. And that's because one of the major reasons, many reasons, is there is lack of accountability. And the third pillar of the governance, besides transparency and accountability, has to be participatory governance, participation in the governance. We can have other values into it in terms of independence, in terms of sustainability, in terms of equity, and so on. And all of this has to be, the governance has to actually be guided by these pillars, actually. And only when you have a governance which is guided and which is anchored on these pillars can we really have a greater democracy, a better governance of water sector. Maybe I can stop here. We can go into the question answer. And then, but let me end by saying that thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to speak to all of you. It's a privilege, really. Thank you.
Thank you, Himanshu ji, for actually hitting the nail, talking about the exact points where we have a problem, because water is a thing which we all use, And if there's a crisis, each one of us are going to be affected, or our future generations will be affected. And since we talk about this whole thing as a subject in journalism and mass communication, this is taught under this whole development communication thing, which has a separate paper in our syllabus. Otherwise, also, I mean, this is something wherein a lot of writings are done by the student. They also keep making certain short films and all on all such subjects which affect us all as far as development is concerned. So thank you for giving all this information, which will really be an input for brainstorming for our student. But I would like to ask you a few more things. I mean, once you decided to leave your actual profession, I mean, as per your academic qualifications and all, because that's a problem which are faced by the students who are there in this session. Otherwise, also, even if they are studying journalism and mass communication, they find it difficult to decide as to what course is to be adopted, which track is to be followed after they complete their bachelor's degree, and what all there in store for them, or where they should make career. And if many of them want to serve the society, then what all is to be taken up, should be taken up. So since you have done yourself as a youth, what kind of suggestion would you like to give to our students as far as their social obligations are concerned?
So, firstly, I would say that, like the protagonist in the Three Idiots film, that please follow your passion. If you know you have a passion, you have a special skill, you really like to do something, then equip yourself to excel in that area. It will be a struggle. Uh, uh, it is always a struggle in the beginning, but you should do that. Secondly, whatever you decide to do, remember, I mean, as far as the social, since you asked me about the social obligation, I think it's very important to remember that we all have our social obligation, and we have to work to improve the world we are in. We have to work to bring a better situation, and so that we don't necessarily follow the past mistakes, and we actually correct them. And as the famous environmentalists always say, we haven't inherited this world from our forefathers. We have got it on loan for use for our children. So we must give it back to our children in a better state than we are in. Lastly, whenever you are faced with a dilemma about what you need to do, or what, there are some choices. Again, Gandhi's talisman is the most remarkable thing. Remember the last person in the society, the socially the weakest person, and think what you are going to do must help that person become stronger and better. So, I mean, this is the broadly, I think, when you work into these fields, there will be struggle. You will have to face obstacles and opposition. You have to continue to sustain your will and your vision, and you have to be convinced that what you are going to do is going to help. If you are convinced inside yourself, things will follow.
Yeah. Himanshuji, I would also like to ask you about this because of my curiosity. Since you started working initially with Baba Amte, and then you were associated with Narmada Bachao Andolan, can you tell us some of your memories that you have with Baba Amte?
Yeah, sure. See, I mean, Baba Amte, one of the remarkable things about Baba Amte, I mean, you can find a lot of visionaries around you, but you will find very few visionaries who actually put their vision on ground, have implemented their vision on ground. He was one of those persons. If you go to places where he has his karma bhumi, whether it is in Anandvan or Somnath or Hemalkasa, these are the places where he has large scale ashram, where the whole ashrams which are 2,000 hectares, 2,000 thousands of hectares large, but thousands of and his main area was leprosy, but it was just a symbol of the problem in the society. So the leprosy patients were themselves managing the whole places, and today also they are sustaining. So this was remarkable about him, and that's what attracted me to him, because when I was thinking of starting my work as in a social sector, I thought I must go and learn from a master who has actually not only a vision, but actually has implemented and shown his vision on ground. And I couldn't find too many such people, and so I went to him. Uh, he was, he was so accessible. I mean, it's so remarkable. Uh, and he was so courageous. He was so sure about the conviction that, and it is not just, he was, of course, he has established this, but he did so many more things. He did a Bharat Jodo Yatra, which brought together the youth of the India, inspired them. Then he brought a lot of them to set up work in tribal and rural areas. He did. I was part of him in a Punjab Peace Yatra. Punjab at that in 80s was a very hotbed of terrorism and affected by terrorism. And I traveled with him in Punjab, which was a remarkable learning experience for me also. We would go to place. We would even meet some of the dreaded so-called terrorists, and we would meet the administration and try and see how we can bring forward the peace in that state. And uh, and the amount of respect that he got from all sections of the society there, which was again very remarkable. We would travel in a bus. He was a person, he used to call himself spineless because his spine was a problem. His spine, he couldn't sit. He can never sit. He could either stand or lie down. And so he had to travel in a bus, lying on a bed, and then from that he has to stand up. He can't sit. So he used to, because of his spine problem. And he used to call himself he said, but the people used to tell him that he is the spineless, but the rest of the society seems more spineless than him. So he was so courageous and this thing. So anyway, these are some of the memories with Baba Amrit.
I would also like to hear from you your experience of working in Narmada Bachao Andolan and your association with Medapat.
Right. So when in late 80s, I come from Gujarat incidentally. I'm a Gujarati. My native, for many years I've been born and brought up, brought up in Vadodara. So I was staying in Vadodara for a few months, and there at that time in Gujarat, the biggest issue was this Narmada Dam, and typically people who are conscious about the social issues and environment issues get attracted to understand what are these issues. So my first step was to try and understand what is this issue about. Why is this agitation against the dam? When whole of Gujarat seems to think, it was not really reality, but seems to think that it is the best for them. Uh, and so I started trying to learn about the issue, about the impacts. So I went and met a few people. One of my colleagues from IIT, Sripad Dharmadhikari, was already working in Narmada Bachao Andolan. When I was working in Jhabua, I had also interacted with another group who was working on the dam affected villages. So we had visited that place. And then I went and met Medha Patkar. So see, I just said, I want to understand this first. And from a Gujarati perspective, I'm a Gujarati. So from my perspective, I want to understand that why, when everyone seem to think this is lifeline, why are you opposing it? So she gave me a list of people, Gujarati people. He said, go and meet them and you will learn a lot. And I did exactly what she said. And I went and met a lot of people who were involved in this issue from the beginning, whether it's Girishbhai Patel, a High Court, a lawyer of Gujarat High Court, Ashwini Bhatt, a very well-known literary figure, Anil Patel, who was an activist of Arch Wahini in Rajpipla, and a large number of other people who have been involved in this issue from the beginning. And then I started reading the documents and so on. And within a few months, I was convinced that this cannot be the right choice for Gujaratis or for future of India. So I then joined as a movement. Uh, in Gujarat at that time, anybody who speaks against the project was branded by the politicians as anti-Gujarat, anti-development, anti-national, and so on. That happens. But what I realized, now one of the key things I realized while in Gujarat, my native place is actually Kutch, and Kutch was supposed to be, if you look at the Narmada Disputes Tribunal Award, based on which Gujarat was given this share of water and the project was coming up. I realized that in the tribunal, the promise, the basis of Gujarat getting, where the Sardar Sarovar Dam is lying, Gujarat's share of the catchment area is how much? 2%. So if you look at hydrologically, Gujarat should get only 2% of water from the Narmada River at the out of the water Narmada has at that point. But Gujarat got how much? Gujarat got 18.5% of water instead of 2% share in the catchment. Why did it get? On the promise that areas like Kutch and Saurashtra, which are the worst drought-prone areas of Gujarat, there is no alternative for them. And they are not even part of the Narmada Basin. They are the area which required water, and for them there is no alternative. And hence Gujarat must get so much water. On that promise, tribunal allocated this water to Gujarat. But once the project came up, we analyzed the benefit area and we found that only 1.6% of the catchment area of Saurashtra, Kutch was in the benefit area. 9.24% of Saurashtra was in this thing. So, against the promise of no alternative and full-scale development, they were actually getting, and even that benefit was at the tail end. And tail enders in India, if you are familiar with any irrigation project, don't get too much water. Most of the years they don't get any. This was the situation so when I realized all this, we wrote about it, researched about it, and then I was convinced that, and when I took these facts and figures to the people in Saurashtra and Kutch, I was pleasantly surprised that the impression given outside the Gujarat, that the whole of Gujarat is for the dam, was not true at all. There are people, once they got to know the facts, they were actually very concerned. So this is some some of the impressions and experience.
And what exactly is the situation today? I mean, as far as the benefits coming to Gujarat or benefits coming to Madhya Pradesh or the damage that was caused in Madhya Pradesh, what exactly is the situation on the ground today?
So on ground, what has happened is that Kutch, in whose name Gujarat got this water, was the last one to get the water. Firstly, to even today, the benefit to the central Gujarat region, which was actually already water rich area, which was already getting water from Mahi and Sabarmati and other rivers in that area, got first use of the water, and they got maximum amount of water, whereas the Kutch got the last and the least amount of water. So that's the reality. Saurashtra got some amount of water which was there already in the plan. They've done some additional things. So original project, if you go by that, then which was being discussed at that time, then only 9% of Saurashtra were to benefit. But then what they did is, this was the remarkable. There are remarkable achievements of Narmada Bachao Andolan. I can go on and on for hours on that. But the point is, one of the things was that it forced Gujarat government to actually expand the benefit zone in Saurashtra, North Gujarat, and Kutch area. When we questioned that, you are not even providing drinking water, then they say, oh, we will provide drinking water to all the villages of Kutch in Gujarat. Then we said there is no allocation of drinking water for that. Then they said we will allocate more water. So, each argument that we made, they were forced to make changes in their plan and progress of the project. So because of that, there are some additional benefit. But the problem is that if I was just reading yesterday a story in English media where very close to the dam site, hardly 20 kilometers from the dam site, there are tribal families, tribal women who have to walk kilometers even today to get drinking water for their families every day. So the tribal families who sacrificed maximum for the project are getting the least benefits. Kutch and Saurashtra, whose name the maximum benefits, the Gujarat got the water, are getting the least benefit and the last benefits. In the central Gujarat, which is what we predicted, will get maximum benefits, is getting it.
Yeah. Now, moving on, as you talked about the water crisis, and you also emphasized on the importance of the groundwater. So, besides whatever problems are there, as you said, that the problem is with regard to governance, with regard to fixing accountability and all. But as a common persons, like we all the students and the teachers, whosoever is there present in this session, what will you suggest to us, what all we should do to contribute that this crisis is reduced, and we are not into that trap wherein in future we are left with no water for drinking and other purposes. So what could be the handy thing that we can take away from this session and we start adopting in our lives easily?
Okay, many times when I go out to address some of the school kids and so, one of the questions I ask them, where do you get your water from? And most of the time, the answer I get is from our taps. They don't know beyond taps, where does the water come from? And if you ask them, where does the wastewater goes to, they will say it goes into the, the latrine. After that, they flush it out and then we don't know where it happened. So first thing we all need to understand is we must know where our water comes from and where does it go, the wastewater, and what impact it does. Secondly, we must try and understand the water resources around area, ourselves, whether it is rainwater. The rainwater, as I said in the beginning, is the biggest blessing India has. And if we were to use that blessing optimally, to harvest the rain where it falls, to recharge that water, that water can be used in a decentralized way to recharge the groundwater. So we must know the resources around us. So rainwater, the land is is a very important integral part of the water sector. So for example, if you are staying in a colony, see if you can understand where does the rainwater of the colony goes to. Can you reduce the outgo of that water? See if you can, colony can work to ensure more recharging, harvesting of that water. And similarly, where does the wastewater go from? Which STP goes to? How does that STP work? How well it is functioning or not functioning? So every ward, there should be a consciousness. You try and understand how big is your ward and where does the wastewater of the ward goes to, and how is it you can try and understand that, and then try and push along with other friends and colleagues and associates. See how you can improve the governance of water sector, whether it is harvesting, whether it is wastewater treatment, and then you go beyond that. Say Delhi gets its water from Yamuna, from Bakhra, from Tehri, from long distances. But a lot of, and at the same time, Delhi had, if you look at the count 60, 70 years back, more than 800 water bodies. Today, there are very few of them. So again, improve the state of the water bodies. Go to the water body around you. Try and see what is the state of their water body. See how, how is it governed and how you can improve the governance for it. And overall, try and understand the governance of water sector in your area, ward, in your city, in your country, and see how you can improve that. So one can take step-by-step approach in this, both physically dealing with the water around you that you use and goes out, but also governance, understand the governance of that at different levels. And then, of course, if you become more active and more, you can use RTIs to get information. You can write about it to your corporator, your MLA, your MP, your government. So you can do a number of things once you get into it. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you, Himanshu for providing all such information, which I believe some of the students will definitely be taking up, because there are a number of students who are socially conscious and who are constantly on their drive to do something for the society. Now, moving on, now the floor will be open to the students to ask questions. So, students, those who want to ask questions, please raise your hand, open your camera, and please ask.
Anything that comes to
Okay,
your mind.
sir. So I am Saima and I've been teaching development communication in DME. So, sir, the thing that I found very difficult is that I could teach them theory, I could tell them about the problems, but the only thing which I was not able to figure out was that how should I motivate them to actually do something? Because उन लोगों के दिमाग में, जहन में एक ही बात रहती है कि केवल हमारे करने से क्या होगा, हम सिर्फ हम कर देंगे मैम, उससे क्या होगा. सो आप मुझे एक रास्ता दिखाइए, एक दिशा दीजिए, so that I can forward it to all the younger generation out there.
Okay, so one of the things you can say is what I just said, that they must try and learn the, water, where does their water that they use come from? And, so one of the things is directly how much use. There is another way you can also ask them how much water you use indirectly, virtually, because everything that we consume has water embedded into it, whether what we eat, whether what we use, electricity we use, or whatever we do, clothes we use, cosmetics we use, whatever we use, there is a water embedded. So more things we use, more water we are using, and more environmental problems we are causing. So they must try and understand their own footprint, both water footprint and environment footprint. So that's one part they can do. The second part you can possibly ask them similarly is then tell them to, write about it, give them an assignment to understand and write about the real life issue around them, in terms of developmental issue, environmental issue, water issue, and so on, and governance around them. The wards, at the ward level, at the STP level, at the city level. So what are the governance structures, how they function, and what is it that are problems with them and how they can improve. So I think these are some of the off-the-cuff suggestion I can think of. But the most important is they must try and understand their own footprint, water footprint, carbon footprint, environment footprint.
Right. So thank you so much, sir.
Yeah, so is there any other question anybody want to ask? Okay, so Himanshu ji, I would like to know one more thing from you. Right now, what all you are doing on the water front, and what is the scope for the younger people to join hands with you in, whatever actionable things you are doing besides providing the academic input on this?
So we actually, what we do is, first thing we do is we monitor water sector in India. What is happening in water sector? And water sector includes rivers, groundwater, dams, agriculture, hydropower, floods, drought. There are different, and then there are, whole India is such a big country, and we are also connected with our neighbors in terms of the connection of water and rivers and so on, environment and so on. So this is the first thing we do. We try and monitor, and we use all kinds of resources to do that. Whether it is what is there in public media, in terms of what is there in media, in terms of the websites, internet, and then we use RTIs. We have a network of people around India, so we also get inputs from our network. And then based on this thing, we try and connect the dots and see that where, we continue to connect the dots and see what are the issues we are facing, what we need to do. And we try and again help, raise these issues directly through our own work, what we write on our website and blogs, and what we talk to, media constantly talks with them. So when we communicate with media, we try and do that. Then we also communicate with our network. So we do that. And then there are times when the network friends will come up with problems that, that these are the problem we are facing. What is it that we can do? So we try and help them in that. So this is broadly what we do. documentation, monitoring, research, networking, and so on. So this broadly we do, and this is a continuous exercise actually. This needs to be done to sort of firstly create our own understanding of what's happening in water sector, and then secondly to also guide ourselves what direction we need to go in. So this is broadly what we do, and then there are focus areas. For example, in monsoon, we focus on rainfall, because the rainfall will also help you understand not only how is the water going to be available post monsoon, but also what kind of problems it can create, both in terms of too little water or too much water, floods, disasters. We also try and predict disasters. For example, India is third largest dam builder in the world. And the dams are supposed to help moderate floods in the downstream area. But again, if you are not careful, if you don't operate the dams properly, then instead of helping moderate the floods in downstream area, they can actually create avoidable flood disaster in the downstream area. And this has happened repeatedly in India. So we warn about this, that this dam could create a flood crisis in the downstream area if you are not careful. So in the flood season, this kind of thing, we monitor rainfall every day in every district. The IMD comes out with district-wise daily rainfall. So we monitor that data. And then again, we see where there are heavy rainfall days in which districts. And that will again give you, warning about what likely to follow, or too little rainfall. So, so different seasons, we have different priorities and this thing.
Thank you, Himanshu. I have obviously so many questions, and as you, keep on speaking, so many things comes to my mind. But before that, I would like to check if there are any questions from the students. Otherwise, I would like to ask you one thing more.
Good morning, sir. I'm Sumedha.
Hi, Sumedha.
Sir, am I audible?
Yes.
Sir, my question to you is that the water problems are world over, if we say. So it is not just limited to India, but to other countries in the world. So would you like to throw some information on how other countries are dealing with such problems? Anything revolutionary they are doing on the same, or something we can learn from them?
Absolutely. Very good question, Sumedha. I could speak a lot on this, but let me just highlight a few things. US, for example, has been one of the big dam builders in the world. But just to understand, in last 30 years, US has not built any more dams. Instead, it has decommissioned more than 2,000 dams in last 30 years. Decommissioning meaning the existing dams have been demolished so that the river starts flowing, because the downstream biodiversity survives, the fisheries survive, the livelihood survive. And those dams either were too old or not giving the fulfilling the objective and so on. And similar decommissioning is also happening in US and Europe. So a number of countries are actually starting, and we will also have to start thinking that, because the stock of our dam is also getting old, and a lot of them are not giving the benefit they were supposed to give. So we'll not start thinking about what are we going to do about this old stock of dams which is not going to fulfill. We'll have to start thinking in terms of decommissioning some of them. The second revolutionary thing which I've noticed over the years is that people are more and more concerned about rivers.
Absolutely.
India is not, unfortunately, but they are more concerned about rivers to ensure, even the decommissioning, the major concern is the river must continues to flow. And for that, they are doing a lot of things. Now, one of the things, revolutionary things that I've noticed is that they are, the developed world first channelized their urban rivers actually. In channelization means that basically they have concretized the river banks, in some cases even the bottom of the river bank and so on, so that there is more land available for urban development. And we are following that example when we do riverfront development and so on more and more. But that's not the right path, because the Europe and the US and even the countries like South Korea are ensuring that the rivers have a room to, so their philosophy is that river must have room to flow, which means that you can't embank and concretize the banks and bottom of the river. River must be continue to flow even in urban areas. Protect the floodplain, increase the flood plain area, and dechannelize the river. So this is another movement that is happening. The third thing happening, which even China is leader in, and Germany is another leader, is sponge city program. A sponge city program, essentially what it is essentially is that the city must, like a sponge, suck and store and recharge most of the water that it gets in from the rainfall or from the streams. And only the minimum amount of water should go out. And that water which it stores and recharges will be available rest of the year. Now, this is not only happening at the open spaces, but on the roads, on the flyovers, on the stations, and even on the buildings and water bodies and so on. So this sponge city program is being increasingly being followed in number of countries too, so that now a lot of this is getting dictated also because of the climate change that they are all facing. Everybody's facing climate change impacts, but a lot of it is also because of the lessons people have learned over the years. US, for example, is another leader in terms of monitoring the rainfall. You know, the concept of atmosphere rivers has come over last decade or so only. What is an atmosphere river? You have seen river on ground, but have you seen river in atmosphere? So an atmosphere river is essentially a stream in the sky which is highly moisture laden, and which can suddenly lead to high intensity rainfall in a very specific area, which will lead to floods in that area. And they are actually flying airplanes and satellites to monitor just the atmosphere river, so that they can warn the specific areas. For example, this year, while most of the western US is facing drought, California is facing glut of water. Not only because there are a series of atmosphere rivers that, disembark huge quantities of water in that area, but also there has been huge snowfall and there have huge snowpack in the mountains, which is all going to melt and come into the rivers. So they are very conscious today about the floods that they can bring. So these are some of the trends that are increasingly happening around the world. Yeah.
Thank you so much, sir. This was really insightful, and I got to know such revolutionary things which are taking place around the world. Thanks so much, sir, for sharing this.
Himanshu ji, as
Sir, I want to ask one question. Like, what is the importance of artificial rain जो बॉम्बे में भी होता है, so वो क्यों होता है? Artificial rain जो create करते हैं. Why this is important?
So, I mean, I think what you mean by artificial rain is possibly that we induced rainfall. Is it that what you mean? What do you mean by that? So there are times where there has been attempt to create a rainfall where there is a drought. If an area is facing a drought, for example, Marathwada in Maharashtra frequently faces drought. And so when they face a drought, one of the things they think of is that let us create, if the rainfall is not happening naturally, let us do it artificially. And they take planes into that area and spray silver iodide or some other chemicals to ensure that the moisture which is already there actually coagulates and transforms into rain. So this is one form of artificial rainfall that's being tried, but not successfully in India anywhere. China tried sometimes a negative artificial rainfall, in the sense that when Beijing was going to have Olympics, they didn't want rainfall to happen there. So they actually tried to artificially stop rainfall in Beijing. So this is another kind of artificial rainfall which China tried. They were succeeded in actually to some extent in stopping rainfall in Beijing during that period. But I think this otherwise artificial rainfall to create rainfall, there aren't too many successful examples. Yeah.
Thank you, Himanshuji, because this topic is such and you are so full of knowledge that we can keep on such kind of session continuing. Definitely, we would like to invite you sometime to our institute, wherein there could be a completely full-fledged talk from you on water and the related issues. But we are thankful that you could spare time on this Sunday to talk to our students and share all this information, which is really, really vital for us to have a better life. Thank you, Himanshuji.
Thank you very much for giving
thank
me this opportunity. It's a privilege. Thank you.